Welcome to Crafting an Effective Pitch. My name is Stacy Ennis. I am so thrilled to be here with you today. A pitch is important. A great pitch attracts ideal clients. It helps you make good connections, form deep relationships with colleagues, and underneath of all of that is it helps grow your revenue for your business. So today I am really excited to get to dig deep with you, help you really understand your value, and help you craft an effective pitch that will really resonate with other people and connect with them and invite strong conversations, relationships, and hopefully more business. I want to talk through some of our goals for today as we walk through elevating your pitch. So, number one, I want you to walk away from this training understanding the framework for a modern elevator pitch. And I'll explain what that means, what a modern elevator pitch is. I want you to understand how to utilize the power of storytelling and the power of language to really elevate your pitch and create something that helps you feel really grounded and confident when you go into a situation where you need to pitch yourself. We're also going to engage deeply in introspection to develop a clear definition of the why and the what of your business. And so I'm inviting you today to be fully present with me because I'm going to guide you through introspection to help you really deeply understand your value and create language to express that value to other people. And you're going to walk out of here with something very practical. So this is our third goal for today, is for you to craft compelling statements about your value and professional differentiators. So we are going to both dig deep in introspection, and we're also going to have a very practical takeaway from this creativity, introspection, and writing that I'm going to walk you through today, which is statements that you can use to then craft a very clear and compelling modern elevator pitch. Now, I want to start today by telling you a story. On your screen, you see a desk, and this desk, I chose this picture because it looks very much like the $20 IKEA desk that I purchased when I started my business. Now, my setup didn't look anything like this because I was renting a cheap apartment in Cincinnati. I certainly could not afford those designer glasses and nice watch on the desk. I didn't have a fancy lamp, and I definitely didn't have those beautiful succulents. I just had my $20 IKEA desk and some really, really big dreams. And as often happens in business, I eventually outgrew that desk. I started my business as an editor and really working in the world of books and magazines, editing content, proofreading, all sorts of different editing. But as my business evolved, I started changing what I was doing. I did more writing, I was speaking, I was coaching, and I was training. But what I found is that even as I graduated to a different desk and I evolved my business and I really transitioned the type of work that I was doing, how I was serving people, how I was supporting them, most of the people around me, my colleagues, even my clients, even my close friends, weren't really recognizing these changes that I was making in my business. And they were still giving me this label of editor. They were still seeing me under the label of the work that I used to do, rather than the work that I was now doing. This work that had evolved, these services that had evolved. And I recognized at one point, as this went on for years, actually, that it wasn't them. It wasn't their fault that they weren't paying close attention to exactly what I did and who I worked with and how I served them. It wasn't their job to be paying close attention to me. Instead, I really needed to, number one, get really clear on how I was going to define myself, how I was going to show up in professional situations. And I also needed to really clearly communicate that to other people. So that, in essence, is me redefining my own pitch. But it was about more than just coming up with the right language. Because when we talk about a pitch, what I really think about is a core message about who I am, as a professional, as a business owner, as whatever your label is. And it's really about me defining me and getting really crystal clear about myself, and then giving that clear language so that I can communicate it with other people. And so that's the work that I did. I went deep and I started thinking about, okay, if everyone around me is seeing me in the old way and nobody seems to be connecting to the new way that I'm working and the new way that I'm serving people and supporting people, how am I going to change that? And so one day I was invited to a breakfast in a room very much like the one that you see on your screen. And it was for a client who was doing a release for a book that he had just recently published. And this room was full of all kinds of wonderful people that I was really looking forward to connecting with. There were business leaders, politicians, community leaders, and people that I knew that I could form a really good and long-lasting professional and maybe even personal relationship with. Well, it was at a point during this breakfast that my client asked me to stand. He was in the middle of talking about his project, and he asked me to stand up and said a bunch of really beautiful and kind words about my work. But here was the thing. He introduced me as Stacy Ennis, a book editor. And at that time, as I told you, I had been doing all this internal work to really understand how to communicate myself. And I felt like in that moment, after years of kind of going along with other people's definition of me, I decided to step up and really introduce myself the way that I had defined myself, my own pitch. And so I very gratefully said, thank you so much for those kind words. I am Stacy Ennis. I am a writer, speaker, and book coach. Those were the words I was using to define myself at that time. And I have to tell you, in that breakfast room, surrounded by all of these eyes, I felt very much like a spotlight had come down on me. I felt like all eyes were on me. But you know what? The thing that's funny when I reflect on that is that probably nobody else was really paying that much attention to my small correction and this moment where I really stepped up and I owned my own definition of self, and I used language to define myself in a really clear and accurate way. But for me, that moment was one of the first times where I had done the deep work again of really clearly understanding what I do, understanding who I serve, understanding how I serve them, and being able to articulate that clearly. Now, I didn't have time for a full pitch that day, but as that part of the breakfast closed and we went into essentially a networking period, I had language to connect with other people. And I was able to make really, really good and lasting connections that day, including one person who I am still connected with. See, it's probably been about 5-7 years later. We're still very close. We've collaborated on projects. And I really credit that connection and that sense of just kind of ownership of my own definition to the deep work that I did leading into that moment. And I'm going to walk you through some of the exact internal work I did and also help you pull out the language so that when you have a moment kind of like that one, or maybe it's a different situation, you'll be able to as well use really clear language to capture what you do, who you serve, what you value, who you really are. Because I will say, in that moment, again, I would venture to guess that everybody else at that breakfast probably thought nothing of me jumping in with a little bit different language, a small correction to how I was being defined. But for me, it was like opening this expanse in front of me because I felt confident, I felt anchored, I owned the transition that I made in my business. I stepped into the thing that I wanted to be doing more of rather than staying connected to this thing that I didn't really want to do anymore and this thing that I had evolved away from in my business. And I wonder if you've ever had a similar situation. Have you ever been introduced wrong and not really known how to correct that person or what language to use to describe the work that you do? Have you ever avoided a networking situation because You go into it not really knowing how to describe your work in a compelling way, how to connect with people, and how to form real relationships in those moments. Have you ever gone into a business discussion? Maybe you spoke with a potential client or customer, and in that moment, you stumbled to find the exact right words in that conversation without sounding robotic, feeling really anchored to your value. Have you ever had a situation where you're on stage and you need to introduce yourself and what you do, and you really just don't know how to do that? You don't know what those words are to really express your definition of self, your modern elevator pitch. Well, that's very common. I've worked with everyone pretty much at every level, from early entrepreneurs all the way up to C-level executives to founders of huge companies. And I've found that so many of us really struggle to be able to clearly describe ourselves, to clearly define ourselves and the people that we serve, the work that we do, and what we value. So today we are going to begin remedying that. We're going to help you find language to create a really compelling modern elevator pitch. So, what is a modern elevator pitch? You've heard me use this term quite a bit, so let's define it. A modern elevator pitch is a core message that encompasses your unique impact. Your unique impact. Who you are, who you support, what you do, and what you value. A great modern elevator pitch provides a meaningful definition to inspire connection and further engagement. So it's all about that connecting and all about that engagement. It's about using language that invites connection with other people. And it's definitely not about that kind of rote, and as I said earlier, robotic, okay, here's what I do. I'm just going to spew it out really quick and then get it over with, and then I'll let you take the conversation from here. No. The reason that a modern elevator pitch is powerful is because it starts on the inside. It starts with you first understanding your value, you owning your value, you owning that thing that makes you really great at what you do, that makes you an excellent professional, that makes you really stand out for your specific niche. And then from the inside, you begin to craft language that feels very connected to that value. And you develop a way to communicate that with other people. Because it's connected to who you are on the inside, and you're communicating in a way that hopefully will engage other people and inspire connection, hopefully in those moments that you get to share this powerful modern elevator pitch, you'll actually be excited rather than dreading those moments of interaction. So, as I mentioned at the top of this workshop, we are going to engage in that introspection. And at this time, I want to make sure that you have a few supplies. So, supply number one is your handout. It looks like this. You probably can't see it too well on the screen, but you can download this handout at the QBC Always On website. The other item that you'll need is, you guessed it, a pen, because we're going to be writing. And then the other piece that you need is a fresh and creative brain, this thing right here. And for just the next little bit of this workshop, I'm going to invite you to be present. And I'm also going to invite you to welcome boredom. The way that I've designed this workshop is to give everyone hopefully enough time to complete each step, which means that if you work a little faster, you might find yourself completing a step a little bit sooner than the timer runs out, the amount of time that I've given you. And that's okay. Actually, boredom is so rare, but it's that space where we're really able to tap into our creativity, we're able to listen to ourselves, and we're able to really have some amazing insights. A lot of times I find in my own work, as a writer, as I'm writing books or I'm writing other pieces of content, when I feel like I have kind of run that well dry for the day, and I allow myself a little bit of space to just sit quietly, I'm amazed at the insights that can come about. So I'm going to invite you to welcome boredom today. So again, you should have your handout, You should have a pen and you should have this thing, fresh, present, and anything in your environment. Hopefully limit that distraction so that you can be present with me today. Now I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable seated position. You can set your hand out just next to you on the table or desk or wherever you're sitting, and find a spot where you feel really comfortable. And I'm going to walk you through a short visualization that's going to help us get out of training mode and into creativity mode. And then I'm going to guide you through some steps on the handout when you're in the flow to help access some of the things that you experienced during the visualization. So again, find a comfortable place to sit. Maybe you can shrug your shoulders a couple of times, loosen them up. And then when you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. Nobody's going to see you. It's just us here. You can close your eyes. And I'd like you to imagine yourself walking in to a room. This is a room where you are going to network. And as you walk into the space, you notice that there's maybe about 25, 30 people milling about. Some are in conversation. You notice a nice charcuterie spread to your left. And as you look straight ahead, you see someone standing alone with an open expression on their face. It's very inviting. And as you walk across the room to meet that person, to introduce yourself, I want you to feel what it feels like to feel really confident. So your shoulders are down, maybe your chin is slightly up, chest is up, you feel calm, your breath is even. And as you walk up to that person, you extend a hand and you shake it. And as you do so, you introduce yourself and you give your modern elevator pitch. And you watch as that person's face lights up. They're interested. And they return with their own pitch. And that conversation between the two of you continues to unfold in a very connected and engaged way. And I'm going to be quiet for a moment and let you play that conversation out in your head, feeling really anchored and confident as you have this conversation. And do your best to be in your own head so you are looking out. You are seeing what you would see if you were actually in that moment and hearing the sounds in the room rather than looking in on yourself. And really feel what it feels like to have a deep and connected professional networking experience in that moment. Okay, so now I'm going to take you from this wonderful exchange that you've had at this networking event to a completely different situation. And you are now standing on a stage. And as you stand on this stage, again, you feel so confident. You feel anchored. You feel present. You are calm, but that slight bit of energy that gets you excited. And as you look out, you see about 100 people sitting in front of you. And just as you are about to speak, you really feel in that moment so connected with each person in that audience. And you take that first step of introducing yourself. You share who you are, you share what you do, who you support, and what you value. So you essentially give your modern elevator pitch. You share your core message, your definition of self with that audience. And as you do that, you move forward with sharing about your passion, whatever the topic is that you came to present on that day. So I want to give you a moment to, again, just feel really anchored, really confident, and really present in this, on this stage, in this visualization. And now I'm going to take you off of that stage and put you in a conference room. And you are sitting at a conference table across from two people. One is a business owner whose business you're trying to win. The other person is a leader in that company. And this is a really big contract, and you feel really excited to have made it to this stage, to be able to sit down and really introduce yourself, your work, your business to these people. And again, as you sit there, as you look across the table at this potential client, you feel so confident. You know that you have great value to offer them, that you are really there to serve them and support them. And so as you, in that moment, introduce who you are, who you support, what you do, what you value, your modern elevator pitch, their faces register with interest and engagement. And you move through that conversation feeling really anchored, able to answer their questions because you have laid such a solid foundation, a clear definition of self to make that an incredible exchange with this potential client. So I'm going to give you, again, just a moment to sit in that conference room in your mind and experience that conversation. What are you saying to each other? How is that exchange going between you two? Feel anchored, feel confident, and feel really present in that moment. And then I'd like you to find a good stopping place in that interaction. And I'd like you to take the handout that you printed and the pen that you prepared. And we are going to complete together the first question, the first number on your handout on page 1. And here I am asking you to identify your value. And I'm going to read through these to you, and then we're going to take 5 minutes to complete this portion of the handout. So number 1 says, identify your value. You are a talented, driven, accomplished person. Fill in the statements below to identify what drives you. So you're going to be filling in the blanks here. The values that I anchor to every day in my work and life are 3 personal or professional accomplishments I'm proud of are: as a professional, I feel most satisfied when I'm different from other professionals in my industry because I'm an expert in, I care deeply about, I've been recognized for, and here you're going to include both awards and informal recognition. If my biggest fan, so this could be your mom, your friend, your partner, were to tell you about me, she or he would say, and I wish people knew that I. As you fill these out, I really want you to tap into that positive, anchored, present experience you had in the visualization. And I want to encourage you to put humility aside. I have 2 little kids, and when I watch them look at themselves in the mirror, I see them with this huge grin on their little faces, my 5-year-old and my 8-year-old. When they look at themselves in the mirror, they see beauty and intelligence. They feel confident. They feel valuable. And I'd love for you to be able to embody that as you complete this activity. Because so often we have all this little chatter in our brain telling us, no, that's too bold. That's not true. But for this moment, can you put that chatter aside and just be really present, really engaged, and just allow yourself to own your value, the things that make you amazing and incredible and accomplished. We're going to take 5 minutes to complete this activity now. Find a good stopping place wherever you are in your work. Love to move you forward to number two. Number two says, brainstorm words and phrases that define you. Now, I'm asking you here to make a list of all the words and phrases that come to mind when you review your work on question one. Number one, include words and phrases that describe you as both a professional and as a person. So again, I'm asking you to put humility aside, and we're going to be pulling in words and phrases from this work that you did on number one to begin to build a vocabulary about you. Again, I know I'm going to say this several times, but please tap into that inner child. Find the language that really captures who you are and use big, bold words that are accurate about you to really describe you. Again, we're using words and phrases. So it could be problem solver, excellent. There's a wide range here. What's important is that you get as much down as possible. So I want you to just write with abandon and get as much down as you can, because that will aid you in the next step of our worksheet. So we are going to take 3 minutes now to complete number 2, and stay with me even if you finish early. Embrace that work. We'll take 3 minutes now to complete number 2. Okay, find a good stopping place for number 2. And I'm curious, if you got done early and you embraced that boredom like I invited you to do, did you find a couple more words in there, even just one more word or phrase that describes you? It's really powerful if you can work this into a consistent practice of creativity, of space. There's so much beauty in that space, in that boredom. So now we're going to move forward to number 3. And here I'm asking you to create statements about your why, what, and how. So here it says, reviewing your work on numbers 1 and 2, write a list of professional and personal statements. So just note that it's not just professional, but also personal statements. We're looking at the scope of you as a human. Consider these professional or personal declarations. And again, I know I've said this so many times, but set humility aside to make power statements about your success. Be really bold and strong in these statements. These statements can be 1 to 2 sentences each and can be pattern driven. So this could be that you've looked at the work that you did on number 1 and number 2, and you start to notice some patterns. This is why, again, it's so powerful to have a lot to work with, because you can begin to pull patterns out of that work. It can be heart driven or it can be metrics driven. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and then I'm purposefully not going to put these on your screen because I don't want to limit you or put you kind of in a box of how to write these. So I'm going to give you a few examples and then unleash you to write your own. So one example, I've been a leader in the nonprofit sector for 35 years and have raised $5 million for families in need. That's metrics driven. 35 years, $5 million. Another example, I'm a problem solver who leads with empathy and serves with excellence. So this is really about pattern recognition. If you are looking at the work that you did on 1 and 2, and you're the person that wrote this example, you notice that you solve problems. That's who you are. You were empathetic and you're focused on excellence. Maybe those words came up several times. Another example, I'm an all-in parent, leader, and community member who believes in doing the right thing even when it's the hard thing. This is really heart-driven. This is about what I believe and what I value. So again, these are examples. They are not a script for you to use. What I'd like you to do now is to take 5 minutes to write down these statements. These statements about your why, your what, your how. And again, there's no judgment here. There's no, try to avoid judging as you write these. Just get it down so we have a lot to work with. It's going to make your next step so much easier if you have a lot of writing, a lot of content to work from. So we'll take 5 minutes now to work on number 3 on page 3 of your handout. Okay, find a good stopping place on your handout, on your worksheet. What we're going to do now is take all of this great work that you did, and we're going to begin crafting a draft modern elevator pitch. My goal today is that you leave with an ugly first draft. So you shouldn't expect that by the end of this workshop, you're going to have the perfect elevator pitch that you can go forth and share forever. No, we are working to get a draft. And the idea behind a draft is that you have to get something down, even if it feels like it's way off base or it's not connecting for you, because it's so much easier to work to refine that and create something that really connects for you if you have something to work with. I can tell you as a writer, there is very little scarier than a blank page. So I'm going to help you leave this not having to face that blank page. We're going to look to get a draft core message or draft modern elevator pitch completed. Okay, so let me show you a few examples so that you can see what we're working toward. And again, I'm not going to leave these up on the screen because I really want you to be able to work from a place that allows freedom of creativity and not put you into a templated box. And that said, I also created a resource for you following this training. So if you are either having trouble finding just the right language or the format to write this modern elevator pitch, you can use this resource that I created. It's at stacyennis.com/Intuit. And not only will I help you by providing a template you can use, but I'm also helping you see how to take that and craft a full professional story, also known as a bio, that you can put on your website, your LinkedIn profile, or you can provide for opportunities like speaking engagements. So let's look first at what a modern elevator pitch, which I refer to as a core message, looks like. I'm going to show you 4 examples. First is my dear friend and colleague, Ron Price. And Ron's modern elevator pitch goes like this. My mission is helping leaders grow and change their worlds. I believe that if you move the people, you move the numbers. I've spent over 35 years working with leaders to solve problems, pursue opportunities, learn new things, and implement change. I love Ron's modern elevator pitch because it really connects to the things that matter deeply to him. It's about growing leaders. It also pulls in some metrics. So 35 years is wow, that's a power statement right there. He's been doing this for a long, long time. The other thing I really like about Ron's message here is that it's very much in line with who he is. So if you were to read this or if you were to hear him say it, and then you were to meet him in person, it would feel very aligned. And especially when it comes to writing, but certainly with speaking, we're always looking for that alignment. It's that internal, external alignment. You're taking what's true for you on the inside and you're connecting with other people, and there's no disconnect there. Next, let's look at Caitlin Koppel-Mason-Gills. She says, I'm a PR expert who helps women leaders shape and share their stories. As a communication strategist, I work with companies built by unlikely entrepreneurs committed to social change because I believe our world is a better place when everyone's voices are heard. Again, I love this because she is very much connected to this serving the world message. She wants to work with people who are making the world a better place. And for her, it's really important to capture that right away in the way that she pitches herself. Next is my dear friend, Misty Mejia. Misty says, I am driven to help people succeed in what they love to do. With over 20 years of experience in public speaking, marketing, sales, and event management, I love a good problem to solve, thinking out of the box, and working toward a common success goal. I thrive in creating new revenue streams and developing lasting relationships. Again, so much alignment to who Misty is. If you were to meet her in person, she is a problem solver. She's all about connecting with people. And so I love that this really captures that about her. And lastly is Heather Hammerstead. And I should say Dr. Heather Hammerstead. She says, I am a health curator. I'm also an emergency physician, a mom, a wife, a global health educator, and a believer in the capacity of people to work together to create impactful solutions. I really like Heather's statement, and I love that she's used this term health curator. Now, for most people, and this probably applies to you, I typically don't advise using fancy or flowery language in an elevator pitch. A modern elevator pitch needs to be really clear. It needs to not have any mental stumbling blocks. I shouldn't typically need to be thinking through, okay, what is that? I don't really understand what this person means by that. It should be really crystal clear, easy to understand. That allows for that engagement and connection because that person understands what you're saying. They can ask interesting questions as a follow-up. For Heather, though, she had this really interesting kind of dual role where she's a doctor in an emergency room and she's also running essentially like a health and wellness lifestyle brand. And so she needed to use a phrase that could capture both of those worlds. So for her, I think this works really, really well. So now it is your turn. You are going to draft a core message for yourself. And on page 4, you'll see that I have a prompt for you to write a core message that defines you as a professional. I'm asking you to review the statements in number 3, and actually you really could go all the way back to 1 and 2, and underline or highlight the words, the phrases, or the full statements that really connect or resonate with you most. Spend time crafting a clear, compelling core message that incorporates those really important words and phrases, the ones that stand out for you when you review your work. And feel free to write a lot of versions. Have fun with this. Again, I don't want you to come back to this later to finish it up and you have this blank page. Let's get a lot down. So we are going to take 5 minutes now to complete this activity. You're going to write a draft core message. 1 minute left on this activity, and if you've been staring at that page, not really sure what to write, just get something down. Scratch something out quickly so you have something to work with later. If you're in a good stopping place, let's go ahead and look at a few pro tips to help you really refine this message and share it with the world. Now, my expertise is really in writing, and I want to give you some tips for your written message that you can also apply to how you share it with people verbally. So number one, this is on page 5 of your handout, is to know your audience, especially if you're having a bit of a tough time drafting out this core message, which is normal, by the way. This isn't a thing that you do normally. So if you're feeling a little stuck or you're having trouble finding the right words, you might consider creating a marketing persona. And you can go online and find all kinds of different options that you could use as an activity to complete. But you could also just very simply write a few paragraphs about the ideal person that you want to connect with. Could be a client, could be a business relationship. And give that person a name, an age, a family life, a professional, like what do they do? Are they an entrepreneur? Are they employed? What are their biggest challenges? What books do they read? What gets them out of bed in the morning? What do they stay awake worrying about? So really build out this person that you are trying to connect with through this core message. Because while we absolutely want to start internally, this message has to connect with other people as well. So really considering your audience can be a powerful way to refine that message, and also, especially when you are connecting with people in different settings, something to keep in mind as you maybe tweak how you share that message with other people. Okay, number 2 is to use first person pronouns. This is obviously when you're speaking to people, please use I, me, my, of course. But I also see this a lot on personal brand websites, LinkedIn profiles, social media profiles. If you're going to take the work we did today and put it into a written format that you can share on these sites, then please use the first person pronoun. Do not use she, he, they, because it's very impersonal. People don't come there for somebody else to introduce you. They come there to meet you. Next is to use specific and clear language. Again, this is because we don't want to create any mental barriers to connecting with other people. We want to invite conversation, and when we use too big a vocabulary or we describe things in a way that's really unclear, it does the opposite of what we're typically intending to do, which is to intrigue people. It just causes people typically to shut down. So try to use as simple, clear language as possible. A writing tip, you can use this in emails, you can use this in articles, if you write a book, any type of writing. Number 4 are some great writing tips that you can apply. You can remove words like that, very, really, just, and then this is a really powerful one. Phrases like I believe and I think. Those 2 phrases can really, sometimes, not always, but often, decrease the impact of the words that we're about to share. This goes for writing and also for speaking. And then number 5 is to apply the kindergartner test. And while I wouldn't recommend that you write a pitch that is at kindergartner level, you should be able to boil your pitch down to an essence that is really clear and helps people understand what you do and how you do it. So for me, for example, my kindergartner version is I write and I teach people how to write. Easy. A kindergartner could definitely understand that. So it helps me make sure that when I craft an adult version, make sure that they're at the essence of that is some really simple and clear language that's holding that up. Okay, so those are my pro tips. I have a few next steps for you to take what you did today and really bring it to the next level. Number 1 is to share your pitch with a trusted friend or mentor. This is really powerful because other people, there's 2 parts of this. One is when you share it verbally, you start to make connections in your brain that help you further refine it. But then that other person reflects back to you in a way that helps you even further refine and really bring this pitch home. Number 2 is to practice. So you can do this in the mirror, you can do it in the car, with your kids. There is no limit to the places that you can practice your pitch so that when you go into a networking event or a talk or an actual pitch to a client, you will feel so grounded, confident, and anchored, and you just know it and you can deliver it. And then number 3 is to have fun. Remember, the point of all of this is that you are defining you. You are owning your definition of self, and you're sharing that with other people, and that is really, really powerful. If you are in a place where you feel like I could really use some refinement in how I'm sharing my pitch with clients, with an audience, with whoever it is that you're connecting with. If maybe you're in transition, like I was, you're transitioning from one type of business to another. If you really know that language and really being able to communicate clearly is that next level for you to really grow your influence, your impact, your income, I hope that you will take the work that we did today and take the next step and know that you've got this. You can go out there and stand strong in your value and engage with people in a way that makes them so excited to know you and excited to continue the conversation with you. I have had such a wonderful time connecting with you today. Thank you for being present with me. Thank you for giving me your time and energy. I know it is so valuable. I've created a next step to this training for you, designed it specifically for this training for you to help you take the work that we did to further refine your modern elevator pitch and to write a professional story that you can put on your website, your LinkedIn profile, anywhere that you have a written version of your bio or your professional story. And that's at stacyennis.com/Intuit. I'm also on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn, and I would love to be connected with you. That's all the time we have. If you haven't already, swing by QuickBooksConnect.com for free, ready to watch videos just like this one. Have a great day.